All right, we are live on Instagram, Facebook. Let me give it a second here. And we're going to be talking about the energy of rejection today. So thank you for joining live and on the replay. I'm just going to give it a second here so we can have a few other people join. I don't want anyone to miss out on the information. I did want to give a quick shout out to Tony of Sanctuary Den for sharing my info this morning and also encouraging people to join live today. It's a really good topic that we're going to be talking about, so thank you for joining. Everyone gets rejected at some point or another, right? So whether that's an actual event or something perceived, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, but from an evolutionary perspective, being accepted into a tribe or a community was a means of survival. So if you were ostracized, you didn't have assistance, you didn't have protection, food, shelter, and nowadays living in a society is different, but the programming is still the same because rejection will still affect us in some way, shape, or form. And it affects us on a very, very deep level, which we're going to be talking about here. And if you do, hi, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining. So if you do decide to comment or have a question, please feel free to do so. I'll be checking. I have two different screens that I'm looking at right now. So if you see me kind of look back and forth, you see why. The dictionary defines rejection as dismissing or refusing a proposal, idea, etc., or spurning a person's affections. So let me give you a couple different examples. Things that we can all kind of relate to when it comes to rejection. So let's say you're a small child who doesn't have anyone to play with, so you go ahead and you ask your parent to play with you, and mom or dad says, "I'm too busy. Go off on your own. Go play by yourself." I know that was something that I definitely experienced when I was young. Let's say you were a teenager who had a big time crush on a schoolmate, and you've been friends for a while. You hang out. You decide to take the leap and ask the person out on a date, only to find out that you're in the friend zone. Or how about, let's say you work for a company, you've been there for a few years, you're working really, really hard, and there's an open position, better pay, benefits, perks. You know you're the right one for the job, and your boss picks somebody else. So all of these examples we can relate to, and usually when something like these happen, or they happen again and again, they end up kind of being like burned in our brain, like really demarcated, in the neural tissue, where it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened to me. Now, I'm going to share a couple other examples, things that I tend to see a lot in my sessions. So let me give you another example. Someone says to me, "Oh, so-and-so hasn't been talking to me. I don't know why. I text her, she doesn't respond. I'm freaking out because I don't know if I did something wrong." Now, what happens in this particular situation is a person can end up taking the non-communication, which can feel like a rejection, very personally, without any evidence that there's actually something else that's really behind the story. Or oftentimes I often get conversations. I'm told about conversations to get my input. And what happens is the person may end up getting like advice or comfort or reassurance, and the person on the receiving end actually takes it a different way. So there's like a misalignment with the intention of what's being said, and that can be perceived as rejection. So I tend to get a variety of different situations when I'm working with people when it comes to rejection, but there's two things that I want to say when it comes to the energy of rejection. We take rejection personally because of what is inferred when rejection occurs. So when someone says, "I don't have time for you, I don't want to be with you," or "someone else is better suited for this position," it's translated into a statement about our worth or value. But who makes that inference? Who does the translating? We do, right? If we're on the receiving end, we're going to be creating that translation in our head. So we draw the conclusions, whether it's correct or not, whether it's truth or not, and then with our own internal dialogue, we begin to create beliefs around the story. And then if we end up having more and more experiences, then we have this ongoing narrative of being the rejected person. which brings me to point number 2, because here's the reason for this. Hi, Tony. I shout out to you right when we started. Thank you for joining. According to neuroscience, rejection and physical pain actually have a very similar cascade of events within the body. So when you experience rejection, your body actually releases an opioid or a painkiller, a natural painkiller. Believe it or not, we actually have our own painkillers that gets released into the body in order to mitigate that response. So it's really interesting because studies have shown that people who actually take Tylenol after getting rejected report less emotional pain. And so now it varies from person to person. Okay, so some people can be labeled as very, very sensitive, right? Or maybe that's you, especially if you're an empath. But that varies from person to person. But the point is that there's different parts in the brain that get triggered with rejection. There's one part that processes the strength of the emotion, and then another part that actually dictates what your mood is going to be after you are rejected. Very similar to what your mood is going to be after you experience physical pain. So with all the studies that have come out, emotional pain is something that we tend to relive more than physical pain. It's actually worse because of how it's embedded within our neural networks, which is, I find to be really fascinating. So the thing is with rejection destabilizes our need to belong. It can make us angry and aggressive. It can make us lower our self-esteem because now when we're rejected, we start looking for things that are wrong with us to kind of reinforce the fact, that story that we're rejected. And then it also lowers our IQ. So have you ever had difficulty focusing after being rejected? It's really quite fascinating. Like you actually have difficulty with your own reasoning capability after you experience it. So what I want to tell you is that there is another way to look at rejection, and that's that the parties that are involved are not a vibrational match to each other at a specific time for whatever the reason of whatever that topic is. Okay, so that doesn't mean that it couldn't change a minute later, a month later, a year later. So let's say the parent who is too busy to play with their child. 5 minutes later, they could decide to change their mind and decide, I'm going to play with my kid now, right? Or the high school crush, and maybe the person he was interested in, he's no longer interested in and wants to give it a shot. So what I want to tell you is that vibrational frequencies can change, and they can actually change pretty often. So what do I mean by the fact that someone is not a vibrational match? That means that the other person is on a different frequency or on a different level of consciousness. So if a person's on a different frequency than you, oftentimes this is because they're either in a different mood or they have a different focus. So for example, like the parent who's too busy to play with their child, their focus is on work or their house chores, and the child is focusing on play. Now, if someone is on a different level of consciousness, the filters are going to be different. So let's say, for example, if I had a crush in high school, and let's say the crush that I had, he wasn't into, Filipino women who write poetry. Maybe he's into like a tall blonde-haired chick who's on the cheerleading squad, right? Those preferences are filters. But again, those can change over time. So by looking at rejection in terms of energy and frequency, you're looking at the event in terms of where, I should say, the other person is in comparison to where you are, and not what is wrong or inadequate with you. So what do you do when the rejection is seemingly like a permanent situation? So let's say you were rejected by family and you haven't seen them for years, or they don't really talk to you, or let's say your spouse decides to leave you. On an energetic level, same thing has happened. Frequencies have changed, causing an organic rift resulting in what appears to be rejection. And I will tell you this, I see this a lot in my work. When people begin to elevate their vibration, people just start to fall away, which is not a bad thing. When I see empaths embrace their gifts and people around them are like, I don't understand what you're doing, this sounds like really bizarre or strange, the same thing. It's all a different frequency that is happening. So remember, the number one thing when you're rejected is just to understand that the energies don't match for the time being. When you start to look at things from an energetic perspective, it takes more and more of the emotional attachments to the outcomes out of it. And you're looking more in terms of what's the information. So how can rejection be useful? Well, the first thing is we can ask ourselves what we learned from the situation. So let's say you got passed up for that promotion. Are there some skills you need to learn? Is there some improvements that you need to make? Then go for it. Then try again, or go find a different place that has a similar position and see what happens, right? Everything is just a lesson. You didn't know what you didn't know. The second thing is that rejection is protection. So maybe you were interested in a particular person and it didn't work out. Maybe it was a good thing that you didn't end up with that person. Maybe they were controlling or abusive and you just didn't know that. Or maybe when it comes to your family who doesn't really hang out with you anymore, okay, well then that's great. You can now be yourself instead of trying to act or be a particular way that you really don't want to be. Okay, so yes, absolutely. And how about rejection being a redirection? So let's say you're trying to pursue something in particular. The answer is no. Now the door is closed. Okay, door's closed. I can either stand here and stare at the closed door, or I can move into a different direction, right? Oftentimes one no means that there's 3 yeses someplace else, right? A lot of people who are really good at sales know that that's how it works. The last thing about rejection being useful, and this is my favorite, is since other people are our mirrors, if we get rejected, ask yourself, how do I reject me? Okay, because how we either talk to ourselves, how we end up treating ourselves, maybe we're a bit abusive with our own bodies in some way, shape, or form, right? Maybe we're a doormat. Okay, so if that is who we are, it's going to show up in our relationships, and not just the romantic ones. They can show up in all different kinds of relationships because patterns are patterns no matter where you go. So that's my favorite one, is how do I, if I'm experiencing this in my external reality, how am I actually rejecting myself when I'm even just by myself? Okay, and you can end up seeing how you can create like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so when it comes to, where am I at? Sorry about that. I have so much information here. So what's the energetic antidote to rejection? Okay, you probably heard of the word transmute. So transmuting the energy, right? We turn the energy of something low vibrational into something higher. And in this case, rejection is the opportunity to practice resilience. It's the ability to bounce back, to get back up. Now, some people would call resilience being like getting a tougher or thicker skin. I'm not too into that analogy, because to me that says that you just feel less, like when you're callous. That means you can also feel less of the things that are actually good for you. Resilience to me is more like wearing a really good, healthy sunscreen. Like you can take in the sun for the vitamin D, but you're still not going to get burned. Okay, so you don't want to shut out what's good for you too. And when it comes to rejection, there's a lot of valuable information that you can get from that type of event about yourself and the energy that you're emitting. So the first thing that I would say when it comes to resilience is make sure that you're not kind of sweeping the whole thing under the rug, like with your feelings. Like acknowledge how it made you feel. Okay, because when you really feel what that feels like to be rejected, you're not going to want to experience that again. So that will prompt you to do something or to change something inwardly in order to not experience it in that same way. So just don't downplay it, because if you do, it's going to turn into anger. The second thing is have compassion for yourself, which is the hard part, because a lot of us talk not too nicely to ourselves, right? We end up being really, really self-critical. The key is to get really, really good at your own pep talks. And one of the things that helped me with this was automatic writing. So and this is good if you're a journaler, but automatic writing is kind of like where you're taking pen to paper and you're kind of going, okay, universe, God, spirit guides, whoever it is that, you want to assist you, what do I need to learn from this particular situation? And then just go ahead and start writing. The stream of consciousness that'll come through you, it's very interesting because it always ends up being a pep talk. Like it reaffirms your worth and your value. And that is what I've found for myself. That's happened majority of the time. So the third thing is understand that rejection doesn't define you. So the very fact that you decided to step out of your comfort zone, take a risk, and face it, that's huge, okay? That is actually a sign of confidence, because confidence is the willingness to try something new. So when you are rejected, you realize, wow, I really pushed myself, right? And that's really awesome, because that's expansion. And that is the whole purpose of why we're here, is growth and expansion. And you continue to do that until you're redirected to something else. Okay, so you can really, really get to know yourself and what you're made of through rejection. Some of the most successful people I know were rejected countless number of times, and each time they come back quicker and quicker. And it's actually a great thing to watch. So to recap, rejection means that you and someone else is not a vibrational match, or you're on a different level of consciousness for the time being. Rejection is useful because you can learn from it. It's protection, it's redirection. You can observe how you reject yourself. And the antidote is to transmute the energy into resilience. So what we're going to do is a quick energy clearing. Okay, so for those of you who have never tried this before, it's a guided meditation visualization through your energy centers or chakras. Okay, the energy centers of the body correspond to the neuroendocrine system. So oftentimes people will experience some sensations through their body as they do a clearing. So just follow along. Don't worry about, I'm not going to get this right, or I'm not going to, am I doing this correctly? Don't worry, just follow along. This is a mini version of what I typically do in my private sessions. Okay, and then we'll see what you think. So what I want you to do is just go ahead and get relaxed, centered in your seat. Easy breath in and out, longer on the exhale. Relaxing your shoulders, your neck, and your jaw. Good. And I want you to imagine bringing your awareness to the base of your spine, so right at the end of your tailbone. And from there, you're going to send a grounding cord that's going to go down into the center of the earth. And that grounding cord can be as wide as a softball, or it can be as wide as your hips if you feel like you need to release a lot today. And you'll see, sense, and feel when you get there, when you feel like you can't go any further, or you feel a warmth, light, or higher vibration. Good. And then bring your awareness to the bottoms of your feet. I want you to imagine like you're sending tree roots down that are going into the earth. I say tree roots because they're really wide and substantial. And if you need a measurement, imagine like they're going out 200 to 300 miles, almost like they're wrapping around the sides of the earth. And then you're absorbing the earth's energy. Good. Coming up through the bottoms of your feet, going in through your ankles, lower legs, upper legs, hips, and then it meets at that grounding cord, and then it circles back down. So you have now the earth's energy going through the lower half of your body. If you're really sensitive, you might even feel the circulation through your legs. Excellent. Now I want you to go to your root chakra. That's right at the perineal area or lower bladder. Okay, and imagine like you're in the center of an onion, and you know how an onion has layers. I want you to go out to the 30th layer. You don't have to count it out. You just know where that is. And you're going to pull in that layer to the center of that chakra. And then you're going to send that down the grounding cord. So with your intention, see, sense, and feel as you're releasing this into the earth. And don't worry about sending anything bad into the earth. The earth will take care of that. It will transmute that. What we're doing right now is we're releasing any fears, things that make you nervous, that you're overly worried about. This is called the worry circle. Okay, so you're sending that down into the center of the earth. And now we're going to connect. So now that we're grounded, okay, we're going to connect. So I want you to go up to the center of the universe. Imagine you know where that is, because you do. And you're going to bring that energy down, and you're going to meet up with what's called the stack of creative rings above your head. They look like wedding bands stacked one on top of another. These represent your goals, dreams, desires, intentions, the things that you came here to create in this lifetime. So as the universal energy is going through those rings, it's recalibrating those to your highest and best interest. And then from there, we're going to go down to your crown chakra, which is right above the top of your head. I want you to go out to the 3rd layer, and we're going to pull that in to the center as we're going to clear permission to build resilience. Okay, so we're pulling that in and then dropping that down. So it's going to go through the spine or the pranic channel and going down into the grounding cord into the center of the earth. Good. If you need to kind of exhale out, kind of like I do, that helps to move or facilitate the movement of that energy. Go down to your 3rd eye now. We're in the center of your head. Go out to the 3rd layer, and I want you to expand that 3rd layer as I read off some mindsets, thoughts, beliefs, such as, I'm not worthy. I'm a bad person. I don't deserve what I want. No one will ever accept me for who I am. I have screwed up so many times. I don't see myself as whole. It doesn't matter what I do, I'm not going to be good enough. So let's pull all of that in, right? Sometimes these things are more subconscious than anything, but that's why we're clearing them. Pulling them into the center of that 3rd eye chakra, and it's going to go down into the grounding cord. So just breathe and release there. See, sense, and feel in your body any particular sensations as you drop that down. Good. You might even feel your shoulders relax a little bit with that. Going down to the throat now, the throat center. So we're in the center here, but our focus is behind the spine. Okay, so at the cervical neck here. Go out to the 3rd layer. We're going to clear the fear of speaking up. Especially if you've been rejected before, it might be kind of scary to say something, opening up again. So pulling that in, that 3rd layer into the center, and then release. Good. Releasing that fear, making sure that you can use your voice in the future. You're worthy, good enough to use it. And 3rd layer, again, at the throat. Let's release any stored anger here, especially at being rejected. Possibly too, if it was a time, especially when you were younger and felt rejected, that you didn't know what to say, right? Maybe you were stunned or you were in shock. So pulling that into the center and release. Good. All of that going down into the grounding cord. Going down to your heart now. We're at your back, behind the shoulder blades. Okay, so 3rd layer. We're going to clear guilt. Okay, it's a high degree of guilt here with the people that are watching. So pulling that third layer into the center. This is big energy here. And then release. So going down that pranic channel, again, into the center of the earth. Good. And resentment. So third layer again, pull that in to the center and down. Resentment's kind of like that long-standing, kind of low-level anger, that kind of bruise there, okay? Especially after being rejected, you might hold on to that, and we need to clear that out of the way to really open up the heart space. Okay, now going down to the solar plexus. So we're at the stomach area now. So again, the back part, go out to the third layer. We're going to clear feeling powerless. Okay, if you're rejected, you probably also felt like a victim. So pulling in that third layer at the solar plexus to the center and release. Excellent. Really breathing and releasing on that one. That's a big one. Okay, third layer again at the solar plexus. Let's clear any people pleasing, okay? Any martyr type of energy, being sacrificial almost to a fault. So pulling that into the center and release. Good. Seeing, sensing, feeling through the body as it goes down into the grounding cord. And then let's go down to your sacral. So the sacral is the area between the navel and hips. This is where you process a lot of emotions, okay? Anger. So go out to the second layer, please. Let's pull in anger. Anger at being rejected in the past. Okay, and you might just be even holding on to it, even though the whole event's completely gone, probably rejecting yourself as a result. So pulling that in and then dropping it down. Don't be surprised too if you notice any changes even in your bowel movements after a big clearing like this. Okay, that has happened to a number of my clients, just releasing physically. So sacral, one more time, second layer. We're going to clear shame. So let's pull that in to the center, because it's very common to feel like we're just defunct, something's wrong with us after being rejected, especially if it was a really big or traumatic event. So pulling that in and then release. And shame in and of itself is not useful. Whereas guilt can be temporarily, as long as you're not holding on to it too long, but shame completely should be like an irrelevant type of thing to hold on to. So now we're back down at the root chakra. So at that perineal area, lower bladder. I want you to go out to the third layer and expand the third layer, please. We're going to clear fear. So fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of death, fear of ostracism, fear of lack of support, fear of humiliation, fear of being unlovable, fear of not having value. Bring that in, please. Pull all of that in, big energy here to the center, and drop that down. Good. And if you do get a little emotional, that's okay too. As we're releasing, that's very, very common. We're going to go out to the third layer one more time at the root, and then we're going to complete our aura. So third layer at the root, pull in victim energy. Okay, that's about like at 75% here for the group. So bring that into the center and release. Good. Yeah, you don't have to, even if you're victimized, it's different when you stay a victim, two completely different things. So now that we have universal energy coming down the back of the spine, right? Because the chakras come out the front and back. What we're going to do is we're going to mix that energy. It's going to come up the front now, real close to the spine, going up past the sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown, your creative rings. Like paint over a balloon, it comes up and over your field now. And it's immersing through all the layers of your aura as it comes down over your body, coming down past your legs, and then attaching at the grounding cord below your feet. Okay, so what we're going to do now is check in with what's called the circle of reciprocity. So we're going to take the energies of your heart, throat, third eye, crown, and rings, and that's going to come together. We're going to compress that, and it's going to go through your right shoulder. So into the right arm. The right arm represents our masculine side, the masculine energy, our giving, doing, executing side. Okay, so really breathe through this arm. Really open it up. Good. And then if you want, you can put your fingertips together like you're holding a softball. And then the energy comes through the right fingertips and palm over to the left side, the feminine side, right? This is the receiving. So make sure that this is completely open, because right from the wrist, really breathe through here as it comes through, so that way you can give to yourself the validation, the affirmations, especially after being rejected, right? So pulling that all the way up into the left shoulder, dropping down into the chest. That energy is wrapping around the front and back of your heart, up, front and back of your throat, up, front and back of your third eye, through the crown, rings, and up and over your field. Okay, very last thing here. We're going to check in with cords. Okay, so for the group, so we have like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Okay, so at the root, oh, there's 10. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, so 10's for the collective, right? So for everyone who's watching, what I want you to do is imagine we're not cutting cords, we're deplugging. So like you're taking a plug out of the wall socket, and you can do this with all 10 at the same time or one at a time. It doesn't matter. Energy is boundless. So visualize, see, sense, and feel around your root chakra, and deplug, release, send it back. So what we're doing is this is going back to who they belong to. You may have an idea of who these cords belong to. It's important to remove these at the root, because if someone is grounding through you, because that's essentially what's happening, is they do not feel safe to ground themselves. So they may ground through you, but if they're having a bad day, then you're going to be sharing that bad day. Okay, so we're going to move on to like 2 more spots here, but then I want, if you have any issues removing the cords, I want you to comment, and then I can assist you. Okay, so now I want you to go to heart. There's 2. Go to your heart chakra, see, sense, feel, deplug, release, send it back. Go ahead and release. Does someone have one stuck there? Comment if you do, if you need assistance with that. Okay, I feel like someone's, like a cord is stuck there. Okay, but if not, one more, third eye. So see, sense, and feel around the third eye. There's 1, deplug, and send it back. So at the heart, if people are corded to you there, they might be trying to make you feel a little guilty, you know, not really saying anything, but they might be trying to make you feel a little guilty. At the third eye, someone just could be kind of wondering what you're up to, what you're doing, may want you to think the way that they think. That can happen also. So if you're done with that, that completes the mini energy clearing for today. In my private sessions, I clear a lot of other different types of energies. A lot of them around fear, control, disincarnate beings, fear entities. So those are other things that I also work on. Oh, Laura, yeah. Okay, a lot going on. Okay. No, I'll be sending you energy your way, definitely. So, yeah, and Laura, just make sure that you don't have any other cords attached. If you need me to look into that, then let me know. So, any comments, questions on that? Was everyone able to get their cords out completely? Yeah. So just let me know. But otherwise, if there's any questions, please feel free. Yay, good, good. Thank you, Kelly. Okay. D, let me check in with you. Let me see. Okay, did you get everything? I feel like there's, okay, so D, how about this? And for any of you, if you feel kind of stuck, thank you so much, Tony. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. So D, if you feel like, I feel like there's one at your heart still. So if you feel like there's anything stuck there, what you can do instead of deplugging, if there's one like exceptionally like stuck in there, imagine like you're twisting to the left, you know how like lefty loosey? Try that. So turn to the left and then take it and then remove it. Okay, and then let me know how that feels. And Ryan, I'll check yours too. And yes, Kelly. Oh, Raphael, thank you so much for sticking around and doing this. I'm glad that, yeah, nice work. Great job, you guys. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that. And Ryan, no, you got everything. Yes, you definitely got everything. So, but that's it for the energy clearing. I did leave a little space open if someone wanted a card pull, but if no one does, I'm going to pull an oracle card for everyone. And what does it mean if you feel tingly? If you're tingly, that means you have moved, stuck unconscious energy related to what was in the, oh, and thank you for joining Jojo Sun Moon. That's a beautiful candle. If you feel tingly, you've moved stuck unconscious energy. Very similar to Reiki, right? If you're familiar with Reiki, a lot of the same sensations, a lot of the similar things can happen. So that's a good thing. That is an excellent thing. Okay, I will, oh, okay, D, I'll pull for you. Here, let me go ahead and do that. And yes, thank you so much for joining. If you know of anyone who could use this information or the clearing, feel free to share. I also do monthly abundance group clearings. The next class is actually tomorrow. For those who can't make it live, I do send the link to the replay. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about the connection between the metaphysical and physical realms when it comes to abundance and what gets in the way. And then there's a comprehensive energy clearing there. So that one's a real thorough one. If you have questions on that, DM me, or you can check my link tree or on my site under plans and pricing. Okay, so let's do for D first, and then Ryan. D. D, D, D. Okay, perfect, Ryan. That'll be great. Great to see you there tomorrow. Okay, so one more for D. So D, have the emotions been with like, we're in retrograde season and everything still. How are you guys all doing, by the way, with that? Okay, so for D, let me show you what you have. So Queen of Cups in reverse is what she got, followed by Ace of Wands. Okay, and then the Hermit card in reverse. Okay, so D, you know, if you've been kind of feeling either emotional or maybe kind of like one day, one way, next day, or even minute, hour, right? Like I kind of feel like emotions have kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster, which, hey, we're all kind of going through it with the retrograde season right now. So that's completely normal. Hang in there, okay? But understand too that you can ride the wave with with just knowing that it's temporary. Remember that emotions, the feelings are visitors, right? Emotions are just really the chemicals that get released by our brain. And the thing is, what happens is that we end up having a thought that matches the previous one, and then it creates the mood, right? So a feeling can turn into a mood, can turn into a temperament, disposition, all of that. So just understand that this is, that this is a temporary thing. The Ace of Wands, though, also tells me that there's something either has come up or will come up where it's going to kind of ignite your fire a little bit. There's going to be something else on the way that is going to give you an opportunity to, interesting, to not only heal, but to also get a better grip on just the emotional roller coaster. Okay, so there's something here. You can affirm it or not. It's completely up to you. But I feel like there's something that's going to be coming your way. The Hermit card in reverse, though, I feel like you have been doing some work on yourself, and you are kind of coming out of this space where it's going to be like a newer version of you. So it's still you, but it's like the new and improved, like D 2.0. So this is following, though, this other thing that ignites you. Okay, so that's why I feel like this is actually really positive, even though you're kind of with the waves right now. But I feel like there is something here that's going to be a really positive change for you. And so the other thing with the Hermit in reverse, make sure that if you are having a very down day, don't stay there. Reach out to the people who care about you. Reach out and do something. Connect. Okay. Connection is really, really helpful if it feels like it's a very, especially like heavy, dense day. Give yourself grace at that time, but understand that it's temporary. Okay, but connect. Okay, so if you need any other clarification on that, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to Ryan. So yes, the emotions. Yes. Felt every emotion like every minute. They've been really, really intense. Me too. Trust me, I totally understand. Yeah. Yes, brand new me. Yeah, there's something that you're going to be really coming out of here, Dee. So, whoops. Let me grab that. This is for Ryan. And woohoo, Ryan, Sun card. Okay? The Sun card is the highest card in the Arcana. Coming in fast, which is really, really good. So one more for Ryan. So Kelly, I'm going to pull one more card here for you, Ryan. Kelly asked the question, once you clear, what can we do to fill back up positively? Practices to fill us back up with good stuff. Okay, let me do this here real fast for her, and I'll answer that question. So a lot of times, and I'm just going to answer this in regard to the topic that we discussed on rejection. So I'll answer that here in a second. So, okay, you're very, very welcome, Dee. Okay, so let me show you, Kelly. So the Sun card, this is what she got, followed by the Chariot, and then the Knight of Swords in reverse. So, hey, good things coming your way here. So even though it's been a lot of heavy emotions and everything here, Ryan, the Sun card shows that there's going to be like a period of time, and I want to say it's a stretch of like a nice chunk of time, where things are going to be really, really looking up. And it's a change. It's a positive change in a way that like there's something new here for you too. So kind of like with Dee, when I was talking about like a brand new version, there's something more here. I feel like it's not, yeah, in a way, a new version of you too, but there's some, like, I feel like there's an addition. There's going to be some sort of an addition to your life, whether that, and I don't want to say like it's a person or like another animal or something like that. I feel like it's a purpose. There's something more here about purpose is what I'm getting. And the fact that the Chariot card is here shows that it's going to be something coming in rather quickly, and it's going to be very obvious to you. Okay, because you can't like not see the Chariot coming. Okay, so the Knight of Swords is what came up last, and so you are going to be eliminating a particularly difficult limiting belief that you have had that tends to kind of come in either at a very inconvenient time, or it's like you're getting rid of a particular default. Does that make sense? Like a particular default mode of thinking. You know how sometimes like if something happens, the automatic thing is, oh, it's because I'm this way or I'm unlucky or whatever the case may be. This feels like you're going to get rid of it. So that's huge, 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 huge. All right. So this is really great, Ryan. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, so let me know if you have any other questions on that or to clarify on that. So to answer Kelly's question, practices to fill back up. So like I said, I was going to answer this in terms of like rejection. One of the things that I ended up doing a long time ago is I ended up writing a list, and you might have seen this or read this before. You're very welcome, Ryan. So you can make a list of all the different good things about yourself. And, you know, I'm not saying this to sound like, you know, cheesy or like, oh, come on. But seriously, if you actually go, you know what, I am capable. These are the different things I have accomplished. These are the different things that I have done. This is the things that I have overcome. I'm savvy with my money. I'm a good planner. I am really diligent, about working with my kids. Whatever it is, when you start to kind of look at all the different good things about yourself, instead of all the bad things, because that's what we tend to do, right? We're always constantly, especially if you're into healing, like I am, you can get kind of obsessive about all the things that are wrong with you and what you haven't done to fix them yet. Right? Or the fact that I'm not there yet, right? I hear that all the time. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But when you take stock, inventory of the actual good things about you, then it changes the feeling that you even have in your body. It also changes how you're looking at the future because of, well, I got this a lot better than I thought that I did. So when you kind of do the opposite, right? Instead of just looking at, well, what do I have to fix now? What do I have to work on today? That's great and all, but also make sure to do the reverse. Yeah, Ryan, I totally understand that. And because that's how I was for a long time, and when I actually started to write down a list of the things that were really good about me, and I validated those for myself instead of waiting for someone else to validate, especially if you've been rejected big time, right? Like those who know my story know that about me. So when you take stock of that, it really changes how you feel about yourself. And it makes it easier then to work on the stuff that you need to work on, because you realize how capable you are by doing that. Okay, so another practice to fill back up would be, as far as resilience is concerned, I would pick one thing that is slightly challenging to you and do it. So let's say, for example, if the slight challenge would be, I'm going to get up and walk for 20 minutes every day. Make it a plan. Just don't plan for the week, just plan for the next day and challenge yourself, right? You know how like you always see like these little mini challenges? Like, You know, I know someone who did like a mini like exercise challenge, like a water challenge. I thought that was a cool one. There's like little, you can do that with yourself and go, okay, I'm going to do this, and that will build up the resilience, because it's not huge where you stretch way too out of your comfort zone and then you just fall on your face and don't do it. But do something just slightly challenging enough, and when you do it, give yourself kudos for that day and be like, okay, I'm going to try it out again tomorrow. So resilience is all about stretching and being able to get back up, stretching and being able to get back up to do it again. And when you start to do that, you can move into more like a feeling of that self-worth and self-esteem, because that's where that comes from. It's not just because someone else told you, it's because you actually can see that you can do things for yourself, set an intent, actually accomplish it, and make it consistent. When you start to do that, you can move into that self-worth more, that, and then into self-love, right? Everyone wants to jump to self-love right away, and they don't realize why they can't get there. And they can't get there because they're not proving to themselves that they can do even small things. So when you change that by the resilience, then you're going to be able to move into that expansion towards worth and love for yourself. So just hope that answers your question. Those are the two things that I can think of that are really helpful, or have been really, really helpful to me. So any other questions? Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, let me make sure I got all the comments here. But you guys have been great. I thank you so much for joining. And if nothing else, and if there's a topic that you want me to cover in the future, feel free to message me. You are very welcome, Kelly. Yes, absolutely. The videos are here for the replay. So if you always, if you want to rewatch or redo the clearing, it's here. And also too, if you wanted to either schedule with me, or if you wanted to join on one of the group clearings, you're more than welcome to do that. So thank you again. You guys are great, and love you, and talk to you soon. I'll see you next week.